محمد وآل محمد يا دائم الفضل على البرية يا باسط اليدين بالعطية يا صاحب المواهب السنية صل على محمد وآله خير الورى سجية واغفر لنا يا ذا العلا في هذه العشية واغفر لنا يا ذا العلا في هذه العشية. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العسى اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النغم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الطعام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسي وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرا وأن تلهمني ذكرا اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تصامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانحا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجتها وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح ستنسى وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته وكم من عثار وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفحالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وقفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور حطوفا. إلهي يا ربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي، أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القدر. فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك. وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك، وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مغرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري، وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، يا رب ارحم ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي، يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي. هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد ما انطبع عليه قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيتها، أو تبعد من أدنيتها، أو تشرد من آبيته، أو تسلمها إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا، وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائحة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذحنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب، يا كريم يا كريم. وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثور، يسير بقاء، قصير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه، ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبه وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أذج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته. فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وهبني يا إلهي، صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأذجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا غلي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يذج إليك ذجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي، فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك، ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك، وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك، أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلدها فيها المعاندين، وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. اللهم صل على إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل حملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا عليها مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب عليها من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطتها أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها فردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي قد على خدمتك جبارحي واشدد على الحزيمة جبانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين وأشتاق إلى قربك فالمشتاقين وأذنب منك ذنوب المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جبارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكيد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأغربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك واعتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن عليها بحسن إجابتك وأقلي عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك غنيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائه يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه تفا وذكره شفا وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابق النعم يا دافع النقم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد آل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعجل فرجهم. شكرا. Thank you. Microphone. Microphone بدأ. There you go. Is this It's okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. صلوات. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we've gathered here for the commemoration of this special evening in the week, which is Thursday night, and we're blessed to be among the company of believers in one of the homes of the believers. And inshallah, we hope that our gathering is a source of pleasure to Allah and to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam, especially the Imam of our time. For the hastening of his reappearance, can I ask us all to recite a salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Sometimes when we come to these types of gatherings, maybe we're used to doing things according to a certain habit or custom. But sometimes it's good to look and see what is our purpose in being here? What am I here for? Why am I listening to these words? Why do I participate in the dua? One of the things that I would encourage myself and all of us to strive for is something called ikhlas, that in everything we do, we try to do it for the sake of Allah. Those same moments that we spend doing something, they can be spent doing that thing for the sake of Allah, or it can be done for other purposes. And outwardly, it might look like the same action, but in the hereafter, we will see that the reality of one deed might be shining and the other one is dark. So when it comes to the type of reminders that are given, the type of knowledge that is shared, it's important that we approach it with the right spirit and an open mind and an open heart. And we humble ourselves to the knowledge of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Inshallah, just like the other Thursday nights that I've been with the community, I will be taking up one of the verses of the Quran, and I've chosen this verse because of how it's applicable, how it's related to something that's going on right now. And inshallah, the focus is not just to cover the verse theoretically, but to understand what practical messages that we can take from this verse. So the verse that I've chosen is from Surah Al-A'raf, where verse number 142, Allah Ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَوَاعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلَةً وقال موسى لأخيه هارون اخلفني في قومي وأصلح ولا تتبع سبيل المفسدين. And we made an appointment with Musa for 30 nights and completed them with 10 more. And in that way the promise of his Lord was completed in 40 nights. And Musa said to Harun, his brother, "Be my successor among my people." and set things right, and do not follow the way of the agents of corruption. Now, why did I choose this particular verse? It has to do with the time of the year that we're in. We just entered the month of Dhul Qa'dah. Dhul Qa'dah is a special month. It's one of the 4 months of sanctity, one of the 4 months of haram. And typically, historically, this is one of the months where people were traveling throughout the lands, making their way towards Mecca, preparing themselves to begin the Hajj pilgrimage. And it was one of the months in which there was an established custom that in other times of the year we might be at war with others, but during this time, all those hostilities, they're going to be put aside. Everyone will be allowed to move freely at peace throughout the land. War was forbidden. When Islam came, it respected the months of haram, but it gave further definition to them. And everything in Islam is based on tawheed, on acknowledging that Allah is the center of existence, Allah is the center and the purpose and the one whom we're striving towards. So even the months of haram, Islam taught us how do we connect them to Allah. That's why we see that our scholars say that in Dhul Qa'dah, that observe the sanctity of the month by guarding its sanctity through your actions and guarding it through your aql, meaning that be careful about what you think about, be careful about what you do. Now, the month of Dhul Qa'dah is mentioned in the words of the ulama as being a month of dua and the answering of dua. And it's also the month in which Nabi Musa alayhi salam began a special appointment of 40 days and 40 nights. And that's what this verse is describing. In this verse, Allah just says that first it was 30 nights and then there was 10 more nights. But in another verse of the Quran, it says 40 nights. And why that division is there, that's a separate topic. But I want to talk about 2 of the lessons that we can learn from this verse. One of them is how Nabi Musa alayhi salam, so Nabi Musa is commanded by Allah, leave your people. There's a special message that I have to give you. I have to give you the Torah, the book of Allah. But before you can receive this book from me, you have to spend 30 days and nights doing special worship. And in the Quran, Allah describes that Nabi Musa left his people, he was with others, but he was so anxious to begin this special time of worship with Allah that he went ahead of his people. He was like journeying ahead of them. And in the Quran, Allah, he describes this event. He says that, مَا أَعْجَلَكَ عَنْ قَوْمِكَ يَا مُوسَى. Why is it that you're hurrying up so much? Why are you ahead of your people? So Nabi Musa says that, no, they're coming as well. But the reason why I hurried ahead of them is litarda, is so that you can be pleased with me. So this 40 days that Nabi Musa spends in special worship of Allah, it's to earn the special pleasure of Allah, the special rida of Allah, the contentment of Allah. And in hadith we're told that Nabi Musa during this time, he left aside other things. He purely dedicated himself towards worshipping, towards contemplating, towards refining himself until his heart became purer and purer, and then the Torah was revealed to him. Now, because Nabi Musa was told to do this at that time, beginning with Dhul Qa'dah and then ending on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, similarly, the ulama have always emphasized that these 40 days are a special time for anybody who is wanting to improve themselves and to reform themselves. Take advantage of this season. Of course we have Ramadan, of course we have Rajab and Sha'aban, but we also have this 40-day period beginning with Dhul Qa'dah and then Dhul Hijjah. Now when Nabi Musa leaves his people, so one of the points that's very important for us to realize is that when Nabi Musa leaves his people, he doesn't just leave. He goes to his brother Nabi Harun, and he says, Harun, ukhlufni fi qawmi, be my khalifa among my people. You be my successor among my people. And wa aslih, and your job is to make sure that in this community, among my people, that you do islah. If you see something wrong, you set it right. If you see some evil, get to the bottom of it and make sure that it turns to something which is good. Now, brothers and sisters, this verse is a very important verse that's used to explain the concept of leadership in Islam. In Islam, leadership, the true leadership of the nation, the leadership of the community, it's not something which is voted on by the people. The leader is somebody who is sent by God and determined by God. And during the time of the prophets, that leader was the prophet. During the time of the imams, that leader was the imam. And one of the ways we know this is from this very verse in the Quran. Here, Nabi Musa is leaving. He could have said that, okay, I'm leaving. Who do you all want to? He could have gathered, had a town hall meeting, got everyone together and said, okay, can you guys please elect somebody who's going to be your representative in my absence? He doesn't do that. He says very clearly, he says, Harun, you be my successor amongst the people. Now, what kind of successor? Is Harun supposed to be the person who, let's say somebody has a question about ahkam, they don't know the rules of how to pray. Should they go to Nabi Harun? Of course they can go to Nabi Harun for that. Let's say that somebody has, let's say they're going through some struggle in terms of their spiritual life. Will they go to Nabi Harun for advice? Of course they'll go to Nabi Harun for their life. But Nabi Musa doesn't tell him, oh Harun, be my successor and lead the prayers for the people and give them spiritual advice and teach them, the good teachings. Because that's something which is obvious. Nabi Harun has to do that. Everyone knows that. What does he tell Harun? He says, Harun, aslih. Your job is to reform the society. Right? Now, maybe sometimes we don't think about the prophets having that role. But here Nabi Musa clearly tells him, Harun, this is your job. We have this concept of imams, right? Imams, we know that imams began at the time of Nabi Ibrahim, right? Allah says in the Quran that, Inni ja'aluka linnasi imama. He said that to Nabi Ibrahim. Ibrahim, he was a Nabi, he was a Rasul, and Allah says that on top of that, oh Ibrahim, you're also an imam. Meaning that your job is to also lead the society. And that continues from the time of Nabi Ibrahim to the descendants of Nabi Ibrahim, including Nabi Musa alayhi salam. And during this time, Nabi Musa says to Harun, Harun, you also be the leader for the people. Right? This is a very clear thing. So we know in history that there were several times where our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa tells Imam Ali alayhi salam, O Ali, anta minni bi manzilati Haruna min Musa illa la nabiyya ba'di. O Ali, you are in respect to me like Harun was with respect to Musa, except for there is no Nabi after me. Now, this statement is very important. Because if you want to understand what was the position of Harun with respect to Musa, well, what tells us that? The Quran does, right? And when we go to the Quran describes Nabi Harun as being somebody who is the rid. Rid means like the helper of Nabi Musa. The Quran describes Harun as being the one who does tasdeeq of the Prophet. He's the one who's there, who's believing in the message of Nabi Musa, and he's standing firm in that belief. And that's one of the jobs of Nabi Harun. And then in this verse, we see that Harun is being given the job of being the Khalifa of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. It's not up to the people. Nabi Musa tells that Harun, you're the Khalifa. So when Imam Ali is in relation to the Prophet, the way Harun was to Musa, it means that all these things, he is the helper, he is the musaddiq, he is the Khalifa as well. And this is a clear proof in the Quran and if you connect that to the ahadith which are reported in both the Shia and Sunni books of hadith, it's a very clear proof that Imam Ali alayhi salam had the position of the Khalifa after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Please recite salawat. Now, the second point that I want to mention about this verse has to do with change and reform. Nabi Musa, during these 40 days, he was purifying himself until Allah gave him something special. And what we know is that, all these messages in the Quran, they're not just about, oh, this happened in history and that's it. No, they have to do with us as well. We need to find ourselves in this story as well. We know from hadith, there's a hadith which is widely reported, Man akhlasa lillahi arba'ina layla ظهرت ينابيع الحكمة من القلب إلى اللسان, or something to that extent, where anybody who purifies themselves for the sake of Allah for 40 days or for 40 nights, the streams of wisdom appear and they go from the heart to the tongue for 40 days. Nabi Musa had 40 days, and the hadith says that this applies to everyone. Anybody who for 40 days they work on something called ikhlas. They work on purifying themselves for Allah, on cleansing themselves, on getting rid of other than Allah in their intentions, in their words, in their actions, in their heart. Then the result of that will be seen after 40 days. And it's something which can be seen not only by themselves, it's not just in their hearts, but it even comes to their tongues as well. Meaning that others as well can see that this person has something special. What is that special thing? It's hikmah. Normally we translate hikmah as wisdom, but we shouldn't get mistaken here. Sometimes, we find wisdom, a lot of people, when they get older, when they get experiences, they gain wisdom, right? That's why, it's such a beautiful thing sometimes to talk to people who are older than us, our parents, our grandparents, the elders of the community, because we can learn a lot from their experiences. But in the Quran and in the ahadith, when Allah and the Ahlul Bayt talk about hikmah, they're not just talking about any ordinary type of wisdom. They're talking about special light which connects somebody to the ghaib. It's something which is not something you can just pick up through experiencing things and reading things. It's something that you have to be given by Allah. وَمَنْ يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ وَمَنْ أُوتِيَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Somebody who's given hikmah is given something very good. It's almost indescribable how good it is. You can't know until you actually be given it. What is the way to do it? Is to work on it for 40 days. And this teaches us something really important. A few different things. First of all, it teaches us that it is possible to change. And we should know that the one who is the one who's actually doing the change is Allah. Sometimes people think that, okay, this is the way I am. My nature is such that I am, for example, I'm a very irritable person. I'm a cranky person. Or I'm very scared about everything. Or I'm very, I'm very bitter. I overthink things and many other things, right? If we look at ourselves and we analyze, sometimes we realize that, okay, we have these areas where, maybe we need to improve, right? Alhamdulillah, we also have many strengths, but maybe there's areas that we also need to improve. Those things don't have to be fixed, right? There is the possibility of changing them, but change doesn't happen overnight, right? Change is something which is gradual and it takes consistent and persistent effort. 40 days is not a small amount of time, right? It takes a commitment to do something every day for 40 days. It takes a commitment. When we fast in the month of Ramadan, 30 days is a lot, right? But here it's 40 days of doing something consistently. But there's a promise there. If somebody does that for 40 days, then they will see the change. And there's all these studies and all these books that are written about how can you change, right? What is the way of actually affecting change? And here we're seeing that there's a way to do it, which is by being consistent about doing something for 40 days. Please recite salawat. Thank you. So, it's not about, so first of all, it's not about instant gratification. It's not something where, okay, I need to press a button, or I need to take like a one-day course and suddenly everything's going to change for me. No, it takes consistent effort, but there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to take effort, right? And there's a third point, which we can get from the verse, which, again, the verse says, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. The verse says that we promised Musa, and the promise was one of 30 nights, and then we extended it by 10. The question, why is it that Allah mentions nights? Because Nabi Musa was there not only the nighttime, he was also there in the daytime as well. It wasn't like he was only in that mountain worshipping Allah at night. No, he was there during the daytime as well. So the Mufassirin say the reason that Allah singles out the nighttime is because the time for really, begging Allah and really asking Him and really worshipping Him is the nighttime. Of course, during the daytime, there's opportunities for that, but really the special time is at the nighttime. And so for somebody who's looking for change, right, they need to realize that, okay, it's only going to come about by putting aside special time when the sun is not up. Now that can be at night after the sun sets. It can also be in the early morning before the daybreak, before the Fajr. These are the special times. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ نَاشِئَةَ اللَّيْلِ هِيَ أَشَدُّ وَطْئًا وَأَقْوَمُ قِيلًا. The nighttime is special because of two reasons. What are those two? Number one is that you can your steps are firmer at night. And the second is that your speech is something which is more firmer and established in the nighttime. Now what does that mean? Steps firmer, speech established. In the daytime, we have the light out, right? And you're walking along. You can walk, stronger and steadier than you can in the nighttime. If you're walking at nighttime, obviously you're kind of walking, you're a little bit, careful because you don't want to bang into something, right? But that's in the physical world. In the spiritual world, it's the reverse. In the daytime, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of distractions. Everyone else is awake, you're busy doing different things. But in the nighttime, what happens? Everything else quiets down. And at the nighttime, you can spiritually, your footsteps are stronger. Your speech is stronger. When you talk to Allah, you can do so without being distracted. Okay, unless, sometimes, unfortunately, we might have the bad habit of distracting ourselves by, the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, for example, is we pick up our phones, right? We start reading, catching up on things. Whereas, we should first finish our worship, finish talking to Allah, finish our munajat, and then we attend to the rest of our affairs in the world. So, now to put this into practice, what are some things that we can do on a practical level? So the spiritual masters, the teachers of spirituality and ethics, they say that for these 40 days, now beginning with the beginning of Dhul Qa'dah until the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, if somebody doesn't do it exactly in these 40 days, roughly speaking, maybe they start in the middle of Dhul Hijjah or Dhul Qa'dah, or they start after a week of Dhul Qa'dah, it doesn't matter. But for 40 days, they should put special effort. Now what can they do? Right? Sometimes it's a matter of doing some special ibadah. For example, let's say that somebody's been really keen on reciting extra Quran. Okay, we'll do it for 40 days and see what the result is going to be. Maybe somebody is keen on reciting, for example, ziyarah of Aminullah, right? One of the beautiful ziyarat. Okay, start doing it now and see what happens after 40 days. Right? Maybe somebody would like to, for example, get familiar with the du'as of Sahibat al-Sajadiyya. Okay, start from now. Right? Sometimes it's habits. Okay, I'll give you an example. We have a hadith in which some people were talking to Luqman. Now Luqman, Allah in the Quran describes Luqman as somebody who was given hikmah. And as if you were following along, then you would remember that we were talking about how somebody who purifies themselves for 40 days, the streams of hikmah will flow from their hearts to their tongues. So it's interesting to study his life. So Luqman, they came to him and they said, Luqman, you're a slave. And this tribe, this qabila, this tribe, they own you. But yet you have such a high spiritual status. How how as a slave were you able to get to such a high level of wisdom and special knowledge from God and special light from God? He said that I got there through these things. He said, number one, I got there through telling the truth. Then he said, number two, I got there through being somebody who is trustworthy, somebody who is ameen. Number three, I got there by leaving aside useless things. Number four, I got there by being careful about my eyes, my tongue, and by being careful about my belly, meaning I was careful about what I put in there and how much I put in there. I ate in moderation, not too little, not too much. Now, even if we just take these things right here, there's a lot that can be gained. For example, the issue of being truthful, right? For 40 days, somebody says that, I'm going to stop those, that type of joking which involves lying, because I know that's haram. I'm going to make a point to be extremely honest. Okay, well, that's great. Right? I'm going to be ameen. Okay, for 40 days, I'm going to try and understand what are all those trusts, what are all the things that I borrowed from people, but I haven't returned to them. All those amanat that they gave me. Right? Let me go and take care of those things. After all, this is part of being a Muslim, right? I'm going to try to understand. So that's great. Okay, I'm going to try to understand. Okay, well, when it comes to useless pursuits, what do I do that's useless? Let me start cutting away some of these bad habits. Right? Maybe, I don't know, useless type of entertainment, useless type of games, right? Useless talk, right? Useless shows. Let me cut that out for 4 days and see what happens. Being careful about my eyes, my tongue, and my belly. Oh, there's a lot that can be done in those things. So, whatever it is, a habit that we're trying to acquire, a habit that we're trying to get rid of, a special act of worship, some good thing, but we want to do it consistently, we want to do it repeatedly, and we want to do it for at least a duration of 40 days. And inshallah, the hope is that the same way that the special light of Allah came to Nabi Musa alayhi salam, we hope that some of that would come to us as well too. And just like how in Eid al-Fitr, those who strived hard in the months of Rajab and Sha'ban and the month of Ramadan, they look forward to their special Eid gift from Allah. The same thing, at the end of Eid al-Adha, those who strived hard in these 40 days, they will also look forward to their special gift from Allah. We hope that we can, inshallah, take advantage of these beautiful teachings from the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and that these aren't just words, but we try to put them into practice. We hope that Allah Ta'ala gives us knowledge of His book. We hope that He gives us from that hikmah that He promises special servants of His in the Quran. We ask Him to accept all of our du'as and all of our worship on these special nights. We ask Him to forgive us for our sins. We ask Him to cure all those who are sick and to grant all the mu'mineen their hajat. We ask Him to help all those who are being oppressed, and we ask Him to grant them victory over the oppressors, and we ask Him to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time, Ajjallahu Farjahu al-Sharif, for his reappearance. Let's all recite the salawat, please. And as a gift to all the marhumin and marhumat and the shuhada of Islam, let's send them the thawab of Surah Al-Fatiha. What's Joel? I think you need to take this. It's for you. No, that's it's for the live stream. Oh, I see.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أزور سيدي ومولاي أبا عبد الله الحسين أصالة عن نفسي ونيابة عن والدي ووالد والدي وأخواني المؤمنين والمؤمنات، لا سيما الحاضرين ومن قلدنا الدعاء والزيارة طاعة قربة إلى الله تعالى. صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله، بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل السماوات والأرض. فلعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتهيأت وتنقبت لقتالك. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، قصدت حرمك وأتيت إلى مشهدك، أسأل الله بالشأن الذي لك عنده وبالمحل الذي لك لديه أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة. زيارة علي بن الحسين. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليك يا ولي الله وابن وليه، لقد عظمت المصيبة وجلت الرزية بك علينا وعلى جميع المسلمين. فلعن الله أمة قتلت وأبروا إلى الله وإليك منهم. زيارة الشهداء السعداء سلام الله عليهم أجمعين. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا، لا سيما سيدي ومولاي أبي الفضل العباس وأختي زينب. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك وعلى التسعة المعصومين من بنيك، لا سيما مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه في جملة أوليائه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على محمد وآل محمد الطيبين الطاهرين.